Hey everyone again, this is Gabe Kwakyi here. I'm going to be walking you through a quick lecture on values, personal values. How do you identify them? Where do they come from? How do you work with them? How do you define them for yourself? So I'm gonna go ahead and get the presentation going here, and we're gonna jump right into it. So values are a set of principles or guiding motivations that you can use to form your perceptions and inform your decisions. Or rather, not that you can use, but you automatically use. So there's two components here. One is your perception. So the way that you see the world, the way that you perceive everything. So kind of your glasses for the world. And the other is your decisions, your compass. Okay, what are you going to decide? Where are you going to move towards? Where are you going to move away from? So values are very, very central and important for how you live your life. And the important thing about values is that if you live life in a way that doesn't fit with your values, then you get mismatch, disconnect, and you can start to feel like things are not meaningful and things are just not going well. Something's wrong. Or if you have values that were instilled in you that you don't agree with, and you start to live your life by those values, then it can create a conflict between what's intrinsically aspirational within you and the way that you feel you have to live your life. So this gets into a slide that we'll get here in a second, where your values come from. But first, values, where do they show up? In your decisions of who you become friends with, who you date, who you make into your significant other, and how you interact with those people. Um, they show up in the opinions you form, the arguments you have, the argumentation points you bring up, your passions, what you pursue, your hobbies, music, sports, traveling, whatever it may be, your lifestyle choices, how do you live your life, where you choose to live. They shape, of course, your career decisions, your work decisions, how you feel about it, what you gravitate towards, what you don't move towards, and you actually avoid. In short, values show up everywhere in your life. Again, they are the way you see the world and the compass through which you make your decisions. So coming back to the possible mismatch between values that were instilled in you and values that you aspire towards, values come from primarily your parents. So your family of origin, uh, your formative years growing up. When you're a kid, you're trying to understand, who am I in the world? You're developing your sense of self, your ego, your identity. So that's not the only place, but that is one of the primary ways where you are instilled with or imprinted upon with values. Teachers, another big one. So especially in the early years, from, let's say, preschool, kindergarten through K-12, but also your professors in university and other people that have this sort of they have the role where they're teaching you something or showing you something. Of course, definitely your friends. Your values can, from your parents, can influence who you become friends with, but also your friends, especially in your teenage years when we're all going through the awkward phase of who am I, who should I be? They can also instill in you some significant value senses. Media, social media, definitely that's going to have a big influence, especially if you are really kind of believing or resonating with or connecting with what is being presented on the news media or social media. Colleagues at work, definitely also a possibility for you to take values from and be influenced by. But by that point, you may be a little bit more formed in your values, if that's, after university. But your early jobs, and even after graduating and getting into the workforce, they can, and even years later, if you are significantly influenced by a colleague, either positively or negatively, that can shape your values too. So values come from many different sources, but the primary source is parents. Examples of values. Here are, for instance, a few examples of values. But the one thing to note here is that values can be defined or written down in any different way. It's not only that there are 16 word values that are the values for every human being in existence, but commonly it is useful and effective to be able to write values in the form of one or two words so that they're simpler to understand and you can really focus on the applications of the values. But here are some examples of values. Um, values, here's a good slide for understanding, like, is this a value or is this actually something else? So would you believe, for instance, that saving money is a value? Would you believe that spending money is a value? Would you believe that loving brand new projects is a value? What about frustration with bureaucracy or micromanagement? Claustrophobia, is this a value? What are examples? The claustrophobia one was just a funny example, but these other ones are most likely the outcomes from a core personal value of perhaps freedom or something else. But for instance, saving money may be the action or the decision that you take because you value freedom, because the more that you save, the more that you are able to live the way you want to, and you're not beholden to other people. Or maybe actually spending money is a way that you exercise your value of freedom, because when you are free in life when you can afford different things, and so spending money actually means you exercising your freedom. Loving brand new projects, maybe it's that outcome because of the value of freedom, because you love to start things. You'll have to have the blank sheet of paper, the blank canvas where you can go any direction you want to with this new project. Or maybe being told what to do, put in a box, that's actually a negative feeling for you because you feel trapped, like you don't have the ability to exercise your value of freedom. So that's an example of how values can be applied into real behaviors and beliefs. So when it comes to applying your values and exercising them consciously, values are useful when you're working to attract more meaning into your life, more fulfillment, making the kind of right choices, as well as to avoid things that reduce your level of fulfillment or health and sustainability in life. We'll start with attraction. For example, here are some of my personal values. I very much value growth. And so for me, that's led me into becoming an entrepreneur. So I started a company. I continuously have side projects going on. I actually went into freelancing because I love this sense of being exposed to many different things and growing my skill set. So learning is another one. I have a value of influence. So I love, for instance, this right here. I love teaching what I'm learning to others. I taught a 12-week boot camp on digital marketing, and that was fun. I trained to be a coach so I could support others and influence them in their own decisions. I've written a lot of blog posts. I've written a book on helping people to navigate burnout or quarter life crisis. And I'm also have gravitated towards being a leader. I co-founded a company and was CEO, co-founder there. I and so ultimately become director at another company. And although burned out through those experiences, found myself coming back towards leading because it was a very important value for me. I do it differently now than before, which helped to make it more sustainable. But I've come back to being a CEO, actually now of a sign languages learning app. If you want to learn Lingvano, check it out. Side note, very cool. Creativity, another value for me. So I love novel work. I love ideating, coming up with all these different ideas and possibilities and thinking about the situation. I love discussing philosophy. So those are ways to bring meaning to my life through, I would say, my exercise of creativity. Connection is another big one for me. So I love going to meetups. I love conferences. I love coffee chats. I reach out to people randomly on LinkedIn on a regular basis to learn or to engage in projects in various different things. And on the other side, here's how you can use your values to avoid the downsides of those. So, for instance, growth. This was something that ultimately led me to burnout. And so I've learned to avoid the downside of growth as a value by forcing myself to go through some downtime sometimes, just not doing anything for a weekend, not focusing on any work, taking weekends and evenings off, which I didn't do before at some points. Yoga really helped me when I was going through the burnout phase. Also, accountability partners. So these are friends, my significant other, others that can keep an eye out for you and see whether you're burning a little bit too hard on growth and can help you to navigate that. Influence. This might also range into the people-pleasing realm. And so for me, what helped me to avoid the downside of influence was to go through coaching myself, to go through therapy, to train myself to understand and look for those patterns where I'm shaping my decisions based on not wanting to say no or not feeling or feeling like I have to say yes. So there was a lot of awareness development there, and that was important. Creativity, the downsides there might be distraction or disorganization. And so for me, I've tried to manage that by setting time limits on certain brainstorming sessions or tasks. I've taken all the ideas that I have and broken them down into a roadmap. Not everything should be done at once or communicated to others as one at once, which is really important for me as a leader and a manager. I'm still working on through that. So I take my 25 ideas list and break it down into here's where we're going to start. We're going to start phase one with these two things. And then once we make some progress, then we move to those others. Or I have my personal to-do list where I don't bring up all the points in a conversation at once, but I go through points 1, 2, and 3. And then if there's time, go through the elements. Specific action items and deciding what happens next, and turning those ideas into specifics in a manageable sense. And then connection. The possible downside here, one of them, is that you might get overwhelmed by all the connections. So I've actually just ultimately, in the end, kind of trained myself and people around me that I won't respond to messages right away. Sometimes it happens in the evening, the next day, a few days. I always do respond, but that helps me to manage the times when a lot of people are writing into me and I feel this sense, oh no, I have to respond to everyone. Honest evaluations, it's kind of like not every connection is created equal. Not everyone is going to bring you meaning. Some are going to be draining and not kind of a good fit for you. And so just having an honest evaluation of which of the connections that you really want to focus your limited time and energy into, which not so much, and just kind of being honest, straightforward, and making those decisions of those trade-offs of where you spend your energy and connection. Calendar slots as well. So allocating a limited amount of time for the connections, making calendar blocks or slots where, okay, in these 2 hours, 3 hours, I have time for connections, writing back to people. But outside of that, I'm not going to, try to, or I'm not going to be overwhelmed trying to make all these connections happen or form new ones. So how you can define your values, there's many, many different ways to do so. But if you would like just an easy place to start, then you can click the link in the description of this video, which is going to take you over to this paper form. And this is something that I've created that helps walk you through defining your values from a set of 16 possibilities by asking you questions to get a better sense. It's not just saying, do you value creativity or diversity, but asking you about your perception, so your lens of how you see things, or your motivations, what you may end up deciding wise. It also has a section to help you identify the negative values, which can bring downsides. So it's not only positive values that you want to move towards, but maybe even some values that can break you down and reduce your life sustainability that you want to move away from. So that's it for today. I hope that was valuable. Keep staying tuned for more sharings, which help me to exercise some of my values, and hopefully they help you to learn more about how to navigate your own life. So thanks for watching.